From Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, this is TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. And AJ, we are doing a three things video when the sun is out. And that in itself is a miracle.
And it's not the next morning.
Yes, and it's not the next morning. That's a good point, too. I didn't think about that. That's a great point, AJ.
Well, because I've averaged going to bed after games this year probably about 4:30 in the morning or finishing my work because they're all late games.
Yeah, man, every night.
This is the first noon game, so it was pretty wild. I actually didn't get my steps before the game today. I've been feeling it all day.
Yeah.
Like I usually get my steps before a game and I get the blood flowing. I was cranking really obscure 80s, 90s alternative coming here today just to get juiced up. Loud stuff like Cracker and whatnot.
Yeah.
Just to get going because we haven't had noon games. We were out of prep for this.
I know. No, it did feel a little bit weird because, again, we're not used to it. We haven't even really had a lot of afternoon games, so this does feel a little bit weird.
Should have brought coffee.
Yeah. What time it is right now? 4:45 right now. I made a pact to myself I'd get home before 7. I'm going to hit that mark today, so we're going to go ahead and bang this thing out.
I want to sit on my couch and watch a game on a Saturday night for the first time this year. Because the open date, remember, I had to go back to Virginia for my high school reunion stuff. So
I've actually been looking forward to that.
I had one eye on the Duke Notre Dame game and the other eye on everybody else and cerveza.
I was looking forward to doing the same thing tonight, watching a little college football. So let's go ahead and get this video started before we talk way too much.
Did you catch the cerveza comment?
Yeah, I did. That's good stuff. I wouldn't mind a nice cerveza tonight as well. We'll see what happens when I get home. You never know.
I have to do that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. We're here following Carolina's 59-7 win over Campbell on this very turf right here. And AJ, first place I want to start is slow start a little bit for North Carolina. We need to start there. Again, we're not going to focus on a lot of negatives today because when you beat a team by 52 points, no matter who it is, a lot of positives. But a little bit slow start today, 7-7 into the first quarter. You know, there was some opportunities Campbell had, especially in that first quarter, second quarter, that they could have maybe scored a couple more touchdowns and whatnot. But we'll talk about what happened after because we have to give a lot of credit to North Carolina because they really pulled away after that. But again, you know, slow start. I mean, you can maybe expect that noon game here, not a massive crowd here in Kenan Stadium. I thought it was a decent crowd today for what it is. Noon game, Campbell, you can probably expect that a little bit.
Well, before I go on with that, I got a lot of crap a couple weeks ago.
Did we ever?
Because I smacked some of the fans around for some of the stuff I said, and I don't rescind anything.
Let me just say this too real quick, AJ, because I think a lot of people misinterpreted it and said that I had people in my mentions saying you blame the loss on the fans. That is not what we were saying, so I just wanted to clarify that.
I just think when you're number 10 in the country and undefeated, you should have a better crowd.
Agree.
However, I actually think the crowd was great today.
Yeah.
So juxtapose that 2 weeks later, I think the crowd was really good. They had about 40,000 coming off the kinds of losses that they were coming off of. These were two deflating mid-season losses I can remember for North Carolina football. So kudos to 40,000 people for showing up for a noon game. It was cold this morning. It was one of the media was real late. It was one of those, God, they're playing Campbell, really? But people still showed up. So
you gotta give credit for
that. We got to be totally even here and objective and everything. As far as them starting out sluggishly, I think that was to be expected. And the reason we're isolating the sluggish beginning isn't so we can just pick at them. It's so we can then highlight the fact that they recovered from it. So the first series was their worst first offensive possession of the season, minus 4 yards, and they gave up a couple first downs to Campbell.
I saw you firing out some tweets like, why are they not running the ball?
They didn't run the ball. I mean, that little shovel pass to Omari, that guy just give him the ball and run. It's Campbell. Okay, whatever. They still won 59-7. I get it, but they had a sluggish start. Maybe they sensed that and they were trying to get a little juice going. Who knows? They know about this stuff a hell of a lot better than I do. So the first quarter wasn't great. Campbell had 109 yards. They were getting some first downs. They were moving the chains, and that was one of my early criticisms of Georgia Tech last week is they weren't doing 3 and outs. They were getting first down, at least one first down every possession, just about. So it got to adjusting this again.
It's cool. We have a screen we can see ourselves now, so
I know that.
It's easy. It's easy.
My dad actually said something about, fix your damn credential. Why don't you wear it right or something like that? Anyway, shout out to my dad.
Still getting on you.
89 years old, works out 6 days a week, and he's looking for a date.
Hey, man, he's a heck of a guy, heck of a story.
If you know a woman in her mid-70s who can hang with him, because he's an energetic guy, give him a call.
Great life story, too. We'll have to talk about that at some point.
So I thought that it was somewhat expected, but it was a little surprising because it was kind of ugly, and Twitter was just on fire, and people are tagging us, fire Chiswick again. This defense sucks. Max over the hill. The game's passed him by. And then, of course, the second thing we're going to talk about, wham. But we wanted to mention that first part because I think what makes the second part more impressive than just, hey, this is what they did in that segment of the game, is that they had to dig down. They had to strike some oil and let it kind of flow up and then use that to ride the rest of the game. And because of that, I actually think that they benefited from this more than if they just would have come out 28-0 at the end of the first quarter and just rolled. I actually think they got more out of it because of the way it played out.
No, I agree. And they really, pulled away. I thought, up pretty big at halftime, not as big as maybe some fans expected, but comfortable lead at the break. And then I thought what really signified, AJ, what this team did in the second half was how they came out in the third quarter, opening possession. They scored within 40 seconds of the half start. What was it, 2 or 3 plays? I mean, it wasn't a lot of plays. Yeah, I actually missed it because backstory, I do an offensive highlights video. I missed that one because all the TVs turned off up there, so we had no idea when the game was supposed to restart. So I started walking out, and I think I was about right here on the field when they scored. So my apologies for missing that touchdown. I was a little frustrated about that. But credit to Carolina because I couldn't even get on the field before they scored in the second half. And again, it never looked back after that. So as you mentioned, slowish start, but we've kind of decided to talk about that first because you have to give a lot of credit to Carolina for pulling away, played a lot of its reserves in the fourth quarter, and I think that signified how comfortable this game ended up being. So credit to Carolina for coming out, and I really think that opening touchdown in the third quarter really signaled, kind of how this game ended up going. Good response in the second.
Yeah, I'm going to back up a little bit further into the second quarter. Campbell misses a field goal. It's November and there's gnats.
I had a yellow jacket follow me around the whole game. I'm not kidding. Sideline to sideline. I'm not kidding, AJ.
Imagine if that was happening last week.
I know. It was. Oh, yeah, no. I was thinking in my head, I was like, yellow jackets are all over the place.
Go back to the second quarter. They miss a field goal. If they make that field goal, it's a 14-10 game with 3:47 left in the half.
Boy, did he miss that field goal.
Yeah, he did. He did. Now I was thinking, man, they're all cheering because the Campbell kicker missed a field goal.
He wasn't even close.
Late in the first half. That's not a good sign because they're cheering, right? They should be an afterthought at this point. But after that point, they shut them down. They held them to 25 yards their next 4 possessions, and the offense just scoring. Yeah. They botched the end of the half. Mac explained it in postgame.
What'd you make of that?
Well, it looked like a chaotic mess.
It didn't look great.
Now, we have TVs on up there in the press box. They're muted, and they're like 4 minutes behind. So you're like halfway through halftime. You're seeing what happened. Yeah. And when Mac's interviewed by TV at halftime, we don't hear it. Yeah. So I'm reading tweets from people, and I get text messages from somebody. I got a text message saying, this is what Mac said, that they wanted to spike the ball.
That's what I thought.
And run another play, and then maybe if you can kick it.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were trying to do. But it didn't look great, though.
But as one guy in the press box said, I saw Bo Atkinson running out there, and I also saw Marion Hampton on the field. Like, what the heck's going on? They didn't know. It was, as Mac said after the game, like, if something like that happens and you win, it's good that it happens because now they know that that's one little thing that they need to emphasize more. Yeah. And if this would have happened next week against Duke, and if it costs them 3 points and they end up losing the game, then that would be a damaging mistake. So be glad that it happened now because everything is a learning lesson. Everything's part of the process,
yes, it is.
Right?
Yes, it is.
We talk about it all the time. So it's okay that happened, all things considered, even though that was probably the sequence that exploded Twitter the most.
I'm sure, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I just had to, ignore it after a while because of all the stuff that...
But you know how it is now,
man. Not that I care what they're saying or I'm bothered by it. It's just it was so much. I couldn't read it all. And I occasionally try to respond to some people. But they really got it going. Drake was efficient. Omarion is an absolute stud. Yeah. He has, 4 straight games with 100 yards?
1,000 yards this year after hit that in the first half. So.
Yeah, 1,000 yards, second or fastest since Gio in 2012 to 1,000 yards. 4 straight 100-yard games, most since Gio in 2012. I
saw a stat, too, that Max had, since his return, has had 4 1,000-yard-plus rushers in his time back, and that's some kind of... I think it's somebody said, I can't remember the stat exactly, but that's like twice more than any other program since
Well, this would be 5 now because in 19, Michael Carter got it in the bowl game.
True, yep.
Remember he got it and they pulled him off the field? You were shooting that game.
Yeah,
and Javante was close. He was at 939. The next year they both did it. The following year Ty Chandler did it.
You're right, yeah. So it would be 5th.
So this would be the 5th, but before Max returned, it was Bernard in 11 and 12, and that was it since Max was here last time.
It's pretty wild, you think?
Jonathan Linton did it in 97.
It's pretty wild, man.
Mac had a ton of 1,000-yard rushers, man. At that point, when Jonathan Linton did it in 97, Carolina had more 1,000-yard rushers than anybody in history.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it was running back U, and they had a lot of linebackers in the NFL
Still make
back
a claim
in the day,
for it
too.
in some ways.
That's a long gap of not much.
I know, it's a
they
good
had
point.
Sean Drawn and Willie Parker and all
Good
kinds
running
of
backs. Yeah, good offenses, too, yeah.
They had some messed up situations, too. But I think the way that they just put foot on throat. I know it's Campbell, but as you and I talked about in the football show the other day, it's not so much what the end result is, it's how they get to that end result. Yeah. And they were having a little bit of trouble with the tempo, and Campbell was spreading them out, and they were running right at them, and they adjusted to that. And when they did that, guess what happened? They had to pass a little bit more, and they started getting pressure on the quarterback. They ended up with a lot of sacks. Yeah. I mean, Campbell was desperate enough late. I guess it was late in the first half. When was the fake punt? Third quarter.
Yes,
third quarter. They were getting to the point where, like, well, we can't give them the ball back. So they tried a fake punt, which Cedric Gray said after the game that he was real surprised. He said, my eyes kind of bugged out, and I just went after him, and he got him. Cedric had 2 sacks today, by the way.
Yeah, he was good.
Career high.
Always good. But...
So, look, I think that they did a lot of things that will grade out well. It wasn't just a matter of overpowering an inferior team. Yes, it was an inferior team, but I think they did a lot of things that coaches will say, you did that right to achieve what you achieved. And that was the mission. That's what you needed here. And the final thing we're going to talk about here in a second, and I'll feed into that with this, is that they needed sort of a retooling tune-up, if you will, at this time of the year. And they got that today, and they took advantage of it. They got a lot out of it.
Yeah, and that's what you want in these games, because we've talked about it. I mean, these games don't make a lot of sense. I mean, nobody really gets a ton out of them. I think we'll talk about in a second. We do think Carolina got some good stuff out of it based on some comments that Max said too. But you're getting young guys on the field and all that as well. But it's a nothing game in a lot of ways. It's just not the most exciting thing to watch in the middle and early November. But, AJ, third thing I want to hit on, like you just kind of segued into, what this means is what we typically talk about. Duke coming up next week. Obviously, that's a massive game for a number of reasons. Yeah. But today, focusing on that, I thought Max's comments were interesting after the game. I think you asked him about, getting your mojo back a little bit. I think you kind of phrased it like, can you get that in this game? Yeah. And he said, yeah, and I think some of the players kind of agree with it too. So I think that is the biggest takeaway from today is, look, coming off 2 losses that Carolina had, a lot of negativity around the program right now, a lot of negativity around the fan base. It's just not a very happy place to be right now when you look at Carolina was 3 weeks ago. Yeah. But today, big win, ended up winning very comfortably. And not to mention that, getting your mojo back a little bit, getting maybe a little bit confidence back going into a tough stretch coming up, but also getting some young guys on the field. Connor Harrell, I think that's the best I've seen him since he's been a Tar Heel here, concluding spring games. I mean, he was pretty good today.
The fact that we saw him makes that qualify. Right?
Exactly.
Didn't really see much.
Yeah, young guys on defense played a lot, young guys on offense. So there are a lot of positives to take away today.
Yeah, I asked him if he can get your mojo back. He said yes and thinks they did. I also asked him, I said, he didn't want to say it last week when he was asked, does this game come at the right time? You can't say that before a game, right? You just can't go there. Now, I said, now that the game's over, it's in the rearview mirror. Did this come at the right time, given how the last 2 losses went and the overwhelming tsunami of negativity around the program, which he hit on, and he said yes. So I'm someone who doesn't think Power 5 should ever play FCS schools, and I stand by that now, and even with what I'm going to say here in a second. And I sure as hell don't like these games in November. I think it's a waste. But Max said something that made me think, because this game was scheduled when Larry Fedora was still coach.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah.
So Max said, look, now I kind of understand what Larry was thinking, because Larry used to like playing these games in November, usually the week before the NC State game. If you remember, you had Western Carolina in here a couple times,
Western
and teams
Carolina,
like that.
Time,
So Mercer was in here one year. So I kind of get it, although you can't anticipate that when you're in early November, you're going to need a game like this.
Yeah, if you could anticipate that, and I'm going to throw this Campbell game right here.
You can't, if you're sitting there and right now and you're making out the 2029 schedule, you can't say, in early November and 29, these guys are going to be just assaulted by the fan base, and having lost 2 games to teams that came into those games that come on record of 4-9, which I can't say enough. and totally screwed up what was potentially a special season, you can't anticipate that. So it came this week, and I think they maximized that it was here. So it wasn't just a throwaway game like some of these are this time of year. I actually think they got something out of it. They had a chance to almost have what would be like an exhibition game in some ways, like a realistic exhibition game that had real results and everything, but to work on themselves and get better. The way the defense adjusted, some of the stuff that Cedric said afterward tells me, yes, they got better. But he wisely said, look, the recipe against us isn't going to change.
Yeah, of course.
Duke's going to spread the thing out and run right at them. They're going to run tempo. Clemson's going to run more tempo. State will. Because that's what's working against this defense. But they did adjust, and they forced Campbell to do something different. So confidence, game plan belief in themselves, those things are huge, man. Mac made it very clear. You cannot overstate the importance of confidence. And we talk human nature all the time, and I can only imagine how much confidence these guys lost, all of them. Yeah, the offense moved the ball, but they still lost the game. So you pick at what they could have done to score 47 points and win a game when the other team scores 46.
Exactly.
We're bringing up Larry Fedora again, but Larry sometimes would be asked about stats, and he always said, the only stat that matters is the score, final score. And he was right.
He's right. Yeah, he's right.
It's like if they went 47-46 last week, people are on them a little bit.
What they want.
We're not asking about Mojo.
Yeah.
Today we're asking about Mojo against Campbell on November 4th. In a year, this team 2 weeks ago was 10-0, or 10th in the country and 6-0.
I know.
So let's see how this game feeds the rest of the season. Who knows? This could be something we look back and say, man, that was the perfect tonic for a team that needed tonic.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, the tough stretch coming up, 3 really tough games. We identified when the schedule came out months and months ago. So we'll see how the Tar Heels do. But I agree with you, AJ. Imagine coming off 2 losses and having to play Duke today. That would have been a lot different of a vibe around here.
Of them.
Yes.
Because honestly, the way Carolina started the game, if it was an ACC team here, there'd have been some trouble.
It would have been.
But they regrouped, and I think they improved today.
I do. Yeah.
In this week. So that's the most important thing you take from it. They improved. The final score is what it is. They improved. Let's see if they can build off this.
Agreed, AJ. It's a good place to wrap this one up. It is about a little after 5, AJ, which means I may get home before 6 o'clock, which is a miracle in itself. Well, probably not. Probably a few minutes after 6. What do you think? What time do you think you'll be home tonight?
Well, actually, I got Trey Scott. Shout out to Trey Scott. He did the tidbits.
Nice.
He's going to do a sidebar on Tez later when he gets home.
That's good.
Brandon's going to do a follow on Connor Harrell. This is great. Staff's kicking in here.
Yeah, man, I love it.
So I'm going to finish my 5 takeaways, which is almost done. Then I'm going to write a column, and then I'm out of here.
Hey, man, you might make it home before
LSU and Alabama.
What are you thinking? Before 8? Before 9, maybe?
No. I'll be
9 o'clock, maybe.
I'll be out of here before 7.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you bang it out, man. You've been doing it for a long time.
That's what happens in a route. And also,
true.
Brandon and Trey are coming through big time. So.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love that. Let's go ahead and get the heck out of here.
I want more of that, guys. Yeah. If you're listening, I want more of that. My wife wants
me more noon games.
You too. Trust me.
Give me more noon games, man. I love them. Absolutely love them.
More noon, except Clemson.
Yeah, because that's a hectic travel
game. Basketball game at 8 o'clock the night before here, and I don't want to have to deal with that crap.
Brutal. We'll see what happens. That game time will be announced, I guess, another week. But Duke announced tomorrow, correct?
The Duke time will be announced tomorrow, and then the Clemson time will be announced Monday.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
They've exhausted their 6-day holds on Carolina.
Man, their 6-day holds are for the birds, man. But that's the last thing I got to say about that.
Jim Phillips.
Yeah.
Ban 6-day holds.
Ban 6-day holds, guys. You guys, if Jim Phillips is watching, which I'm sure he is, you know what to do. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Yes, he did, man.
Friedlander went after him on that one we did.
Yes, he did, man. We have definitely had some things to say about the ACC, but that's all I got to say about that. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. Another edition of our 3 Things Post-Game Podcast. Appreciate y'all watching as always. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell too, and keep it locked to TarIllustrated.com for all your post-game coverage from today's win. We appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks.